Welcome in the sunny Berlin. No, it's not sunny anymore. I was just thinking about whether this weather has now an influence on our electricity due to our solar PV
Good for wind.
supply. Yeah, wind, yeah, maybe, yeah, that's true. Well, my name is Torsten Fritsche, as it was named already, and I'm working at GIZ. I don't know who knows GIZ. Not everybody. So just a short introduction to GIZ as a governmental organization. We are working on behalf of the German government all over the world, as you see, in almost more than 130 countries. And we are a technical advisor, more or less, on behalf of the German government. One of my colleagues is also here, I think. Florian Geier. Okay. Maybe you have explained already what is GIZ to some of them. And actually, we are not so much present in Berlin. A smaller part only of us are based in Berlin, here in the capital. Especially the ones like me who are working very closely with our German ministries together. So for me, for example, I'm working very close with the German Ministry of Economic Affairs and Energy. So they are based here, and we are very close to them, working with them together. But what do? We are, that's what I said, technical advisors to usually other governments and other institutions worldwide. And with this, we are with 2.1 billion euros per year, quite a big consultant, more or less, if you compare it. Because this is not hardware or anything. It's not comparable with construction sites or not comparable with banks. So this is manpower. And this is, much of this is given by the German government, by German taxpayers of this money, just to send experts to other countries and work with them on energy, but also on other topics, whether this is small and medium enterprise development or agriculture or health. They are totally different topics we are working on. But Bernhard Zimmler, who was mentioned, and also I, and Florian Geier as well, we are working on energy topics very much. And as you see that we have 17,000, more than 17,000 employees worldwide. This is also one of our assets, because we are based often in the ministries of other governments, working with them on the topics. But energy is a very important topic of GIZ, which we have, which is usually addressed by others, by partner governments who say, well, we need, or we would like to have support from Germany in this field of energy, for example. Please, could you support us? Could you give us assistance? And then the partner government goes from the country to the German embassy and asks them, please support us. Goes to our ministries, and then they come to us and say, well, you are the ones who help them now. We are working in the energy sector on different fields. What do? Usually we don't support, let's say, the investment itself. We don't provide finance, but we give, we try to give more capacities to the sector. And this means we give know-how from Germany, but also from other countries, how the energy sector has developed, and what are the lessons learned also for this and that country, and strengthen therefore the stakeholders and the shareholders of the energy sector in the countries. Whether we strengthen, for example, the ministry to develop policies, and with this to work on the framework conditions under which energy projects or energy should happen, energy development, or whether these are other institutions like universities, like scientific institutions, or even with the society, yeah, to create awareness, yeah, so that we are working on a lot of different levels. What is important is also that we look on the one hand on the technology side, and to say, well, which technology has been proven, which technology must be appropriate for your, or needs to be adapted to your country's conditions, yeah, because not everything what in Germany works also in other countries. But also, how can we push, for example, renewables, or how can we push, for example, energy efficiency? And lessons learned from Germany are sometimes interesting, but we have often also that we take, for example, best practices from, let's say, for example, Thailand to the Philippines, yeah? Or from South Africa to Namibia or other countries, sorry. And so this is then this lessons learned from all over the world, so that sustainable development, according to our understanding, can happen. Last point is, although we are very much working on the government level or on the public level, we are also cooperating a lot with the private sector, because private sector is very much important, especially if we talk about the energy sector. Who makes energy happen? These are often the private sector. Okay, in many countries it's still the public sector, but still the private sector is an important player, especially if we talk now about renewables, where private sector can even much more participate. But coming from GIZ and having said this, what is our usual business, our common business, we have done another exercise. And we have done a study to look into the energy future, which is not so usual for us as GIZ, because we are not a scientific institute and calculating scenario ABC. Yeah? This is what usually then the other experts do, partially on behalf of us. But in this case, we have done a study on the energy future 2040. The reasons for it, I think, is clear for everybody. You are here, you know why you are interested in the energy sector, in the renewables. Very different reasons, yeah, to think about energy, and you know the reasons why it's so important to act now, yeah, to act also cautiously, and whether you have this tsunami impact on the nuclear power plants in Japan, or we have in China the smoke conditions, yeah, caused mainly by energy issues, whether you have this coal industries, a lot of accidents, but also a lot of coal demand, and or you have even wars due to the fact that energy plays a role. Yeah, if you look into the Gulf states, yeah, if you look into just the recent developments with Qatar and Syria and Iran and Saudi Arabia, this is, depends also very much on energy. Yeah? We have the shale gas discussion, but also then the latest developments of renewables or even mobility. So there are enough reasons to say, well, we need to look also into a bigger and future. Also due to the fact that we also see in Germany, although we think we are on a good track, we are on a very welcome to the Energiewende, we are on a good energy transition track, yeah, but also we see there is certain questions, yeah, what do we expect in about 25 years? Yeah? We see a lot of solar projects have been implemented in Germany, but we also see that the industry in the solar sector collapsed in Germany, or at least went to other countries, and we are still installing solar. Yeah? And at the same time, we have the utilities with a lot of assets and investments, and so how do we deal with this? Yeah? And not to talk about stranded investments, and therefore we said, okay, we want to see also what could be the situation in 2040. Now my question to you, why have we chosen 2040?
Because it's maybe near 2050, 2040, this is global or for Germany?
The study was not concentrated on Germany alone.
Okay.
It was also looking at Germany, Europe and global.
Because that's towards the end of predicting coal or availability might decline theoretically.
Could be, yeah. Other ideas?
Like a middle milestone for 2050?
Was also similar to this direction.
That as far as we can predict, like the world's going to change or what?
Prediction, yeah. This is. I come to this point. Yeah. Thank you. Well, you are all right to a certain extent. At the end, it was the question. If we talk these days, yeah, if we talk about these days about developments, if we talk about future electricity markets, yeah, we're talking about the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, yeah, maybe 10 years, yeah, but the development within 25 years is not considered. Huh? Doesn't work still?
Just want to try.
Yeah. And we wanted to look further. We wanted to come out of this current discussion. We wanted to say, well, there is a current discussion, and we are talking about certain movements, certain developments, but this is maybe not enough, because due to that we have put us some boundaries, some timing boundaries of the discussion may lead us to wrong decisions. Yeah, if we have an idea, or if we get an idea, what could be the options in 25 years? Yeah, what could be the different options? Then maybe the decision will be, or could be, a different one, or should be a different one these days. Yeah? And if we look, for example, into the lifetime, for example, of energy power plants, or of power plants. Well, if we say this 2040 is about 25, we did the study in 2015, so that's then 25 years. The renewables are not so much affected, because in 2040, and then this is 20 years, so the power plant now, which I'm investing now, is old. Yeah? There's not much happening with this. Yeah? But if we look, for example, yeah, in coal-fired power plants, yeah, we have this 40 years of lifetime, or even more. Yeah? The decision made on the investment is made on 40 years. So if I make now the decision, yeah, to invest into a coal-fired power plant, first of all, I have still 5 years to go for the planning and all this stuff, plus the 40 years. And if now we have the result out of the study that in 25 years there is no coal-fired power plant anymore, it's stranded asset. Yeah? It's failed investment, yeah? Because there's no return at the end of the day, because I don't reach at all the 40 years I need. Yeah? And therefore we said, well, this 2040 is interesting, and it's better to predict than 2100, for example. Yeah. So and therefore this was one reason. And I had a good interview with Ernst Ulrich von Weizsäcker, and he was one of the leading scientists at that time, also running to our German government and saying, well, 25 years ago, look at this. This is, I don't know how to describe it, but this is a solar module, or this is something where we get electricity out of it. So shouldn't we try this? Yeah, in the German government, 1990. Yeah? And they were laughing. Yeah, and they were talking to him like he has he's growing some bees or whatsoever. So some hobbies. Yeah, and they were smiling at him and saying, well, yeah, just go for your hobby. And this was 25 years ago. And he said, well, it's so difficult now to predict the next 25 years because I would not have expected at all that in 25 years we have reached this development of renewable energies, if we see it right now. And therefore it's I think, a good escape, next to the fact that we didn't want to choose 2050 because it's already occupied by so many different other international dates, but also for Germany that we have 2050 as one big goal. Yeah. Therefore we were choosing 2040, so in between. So this morning I think you have heard a lot of experts who are more or less scientists who are deep into this material, into the topic, and they can calculate you a lot and they know much, and they say, well, if we do this, then I calculate and then it comes out this and that. This is not about what is our study. And therefore we have also this slogan, it's not a matter of correctly predicting the future. We know that we can't predict the future for 2040, but of being prepared for it is good. Yeah? This is a very important slogan for us. And it was always difficult to get all the experts into a thinking that you should go out of your current business and think ahead. It was very difficult, and we always need to remind them to jump into it. And this strategic foresight as an added value, assessing a possible or potential future, assessing, instead of a clear prognosis. Yeah? This was one of the important things. Providing orientation, what could happen, to think about also other options and not have your mind straight to this future, what you think, so that you get a pool of ideas. This was very important because this may lead to other thinking. And to open up for new perspectives, which we would never have thought about. Yeah? This was our idea to get out of it. Identifying potential game changers. Who are the game changers? Who need to be supported, or do we need support at all? Who are the game changers? Then we have here the present, and this is how this method, Delphi method, which is being explained also in a short movie in a few seconds. And we go here for a source of ideas and then to see what possible futures will be there. On different scales and different areas, whether this is technology or whether this is society or whether this is geographically. This was important for us. And to get awareness of fundamental changes and a strategic debate. Strategic, where we can think, where we can discuss on a political as well as on a business sector. So the question was, what future awaits the energy systems in Germany, Europe, and the world in 2040 and beyond? And we know that we have a lot of other publications where also others look into, so for example, Bloomberg or BP or others. So look into this one, calculating, trying to get it out of it. We did the expert analysis, asking the experts, not based on scientific reasons. And I show you now the movie, how this works. It's just 5 minutes. to give you an impression how this study
Worldwide, energy systems
Loud enough?
are in a state of transition. Renewable energies are quickly gaining ground. With the energy transition, or Energiewende, Germany is attracting a lot of international attention. But also other countries have started to change course. China, for example, is investing enormous sums in renewable energies. But at the same time, global greenhouse gas emissions are rising, driven by economic expansion, population growth, and the hunger for energy, which in many countries is still being satisfied by coal. Electric utilities have to reinvent themselves. Tomorrow's smart power supply is already looming on the horizon, and big internet companies sense their opportunities. Envisioning the future of energy, many unknowns remain. Will shale gas and tar sands prolong the age of fossil fuels? Or will renewable energies provide the cheapest options to produce heat and power and overcome fossil fuel path dependencies? Which technology innovations will have the power to change the energy game completely? Only one thing is clear. The energy landscape of today will soon have changed its familiar face. We are experiencing a transformation which, more than ever, requires decision makers in politics, business and society to monitor dynamics and drivers for future developments in order to maintain their scope for action. But how to do that and look 20 to 30 years ahead? Already in ancient times, Pericles made the point, it's not a matter of correctly predicting the future, but of being prepared for it. That is exactly what foresight wants to achieve. To anticipate future developments and identify their dynamics and linkages. The aim of foresight is to think in alternative future scenarios. Foresight gives orientation, it serves as an early warning system, and as a source of ideas for strategy processes. One of the most capable foresight techniques is the Delphi method. Being widely used in politics and the business world today, its roots lay in the ancient Greece. At the Apollo temple of the Oracle of Delphi, politicians and clerics sought advice for their most important decisions. But the oracle did not speak clear prognosis. Instead, it only provided hints of possible future developments that had to be interpreted by the consultants. Today, we face a similar situation. The world provides us with many hints concerning possible future developments. These clues have to be unlocked and interpreted before they can be used. The Delphi method examines a topic intensively from different perspectives in order to identify future trends. Through interviews with experts of all relevant backgrounds, personal expectations regarding upcoming developments are inquired, thereby detecting even weak signals of change. This intuitive expert knowledge is then being forged into theses. Subsequently, every thesis is being assessed with respect to its probability by a large panel of experts. This way, the qualitative collection of expert opinions is combined with a broad quantitative analysis. The results are alternative future scenarios and development paths which make the future more tangible and provide inspiration and guidance for possible actions. Within the joint project, Delphi Energy Future, GIZ, the German Association of Energy and Water Industries, and PwC explore the energy future in the year 2040. 80 renowned experts from politics, the business world, and civil society, from industrialized, emerging, and developing countries, have talked with us about the energy systems of the future. They have told us their expectations and visions, which have been evaluated by nearly 400 experts from all over the world. Thus, Delphi Energy Future helps to envision potential developments, formulate strategies, and to give orientation in the energy world of tomorrow.
Just one comment. They have mentioned that we have interviewed also politics or politicians. This is not exactly so much true because we have tried to avoid to talk to the politicians. Because we know that an answer, what do they expect in 25 years, is irrelevant because they don't think so far. Yeah, so they are more interested in the next 4 or 5 years, and so we didn't want to have this influenced, yeah, their opinion on their daily life, just thinking to the next election, and therefore we have mainly taken scientists, business people, and others, but not so much politicians. So now I have given you a white paper, and I would like to ask you, what do you think will be the game changer for the energy system 2040? I would like to get from each of you only one, can be 2 words, but one game changer. What do you think?
In as far as technologies,
It's up to you.
we write them.
You just write them down, and then we can show them or can read some of them, and I'll give you then afterwards also an idea what has been given by the experts. Huh? You wrote already? Shall I collect?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, please.
You wrote already?
It's here.
Ah, there, okay. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. I just put them like this. Uh-huh. Okay. It's even different, yeah. Or maybe I just... have you finished, everybody? I collect them, and while I'm collecting them, I may read some of them.
This one,
The first one, you already wrote 3, yeah? Transportation, electric vehicles, you're saying, which is technology, yeah? Which is technology. Nuclear fusion, which is technology. We have here global population, for example. It's yeah, something with society, development. We have here already some everyone or human engineers and consumer behavior. Yeah, so it's from the people itself himself. Flexible government policy, so it's interesting. Thank you. Energy access is one of the game changer. Climate change. Batteries, so again, technology, yeah. Storage innovation, technology. Producing own generation for consumption, yeah. Integrated energy and smart cities, which is, yeah, interesting because it's all of them.
Yeah.
Okay, this is already collected. Okay.
Mia was very busy, right?
Best student. Okay, thank you. So I continue with individual customer choices, adaptability, e-mobility, again technology, demand response, information technologies, constitutional laws, yeah, forcing the energy systems to be 100% renewable energies is written here. So a policy driver, for example, yeah. Storage systems, again, technology. Demonstrated profit. Not just cost saving, business care for renewables and sustainability. So I think we had a lot of them, which we also see right now. And from this, also from your ideas already, we see it's difficult to predict one game changer on the one hand, but it's interesting, first of all, which game changers could be important, yeah, or could be influencing the decision. For example, if you look into technology or ecology, or economy or policy, is the technology development faster, yeah, than the policy? Is the policy just following the technology development, for example, or do we need the policies to support the technology development? It's a very good question. Or is the technology development having an influence so much, as we have also here run demonstrate, the profit, yeah, on the economy? Yeah? The economy of scale is the driver. Whatever climate change will do with us, yeah, it's not the end of available oil or gas. What we said before, yeah, the end of oil, the end of coal. It's not. We will remain. It will remain. Yeah? Oil and coal will remain on the earth, but it has no value anymore in future. So is this then the driver for the economy itself, or the ecology? Yeah? Is it just because we have a lot of storm, we have a lot of rain, we have floods, we have earthquakes, we have whatsoever? Is it just the nature which gives us the push, yeah, and is the driver at the end? We had a lot of theses from the experts, yeah? And one thesis was, by 2040, the largest CO2 emitting countries will have taken decisive actions to change course as a result of serious ecological disasters. Yeah? So the disaster, this, yeah, which also may then convinces Trump and others, yeah, to act. Yeah? Or is Trump irrelevant because the technology will run? Yeah? And sustainable energy systems will have been promoted. Economic and energy policies will primarily be aimed at fighting climate change. What do you think? This was one thesis of one expert, and what has the majority answered? Is this likely or is this unlikely? Because this was the idea of the thesis. Yeah? We had of the Delphi method, that we have thesis from the experts and have then asked a great group of experts again and say, well, is this realistic for 2040 or is this unrealistic? Is this unlikely? What do you think of this thesis? That disasters are driving us to
I think this will be one of the reasons.
But not the primary one.
Because I think the ecological disasters won't happen in first world countries. Yeah, in the southern hemisphere.
just one, did you say happening in?
They will not happen in the first world countries, which is where the money is, right? So people are generally only affected by what happens to them.
Well, first of all, we don't differentiate between the first, second, and third world because we have only one world. This is but at the end of the day, I mean, the United States is affected a lot. Even Germany is affected a lot already.
Yeah, but even though after Katrina, for example, the policies stay the same. Or even, I think that 2 weeks ago it was declared emergency state in Mississippi, or because the flood, and 1 week after Trump withdrew the Paris Agreement.
Yeah.
So even though they have ecological disasters, even in the US, it doesn't matter that they change the policies.
This is now.
Now,
We talk about 2040.
we have to, well, And it's still, New Orleans is still living with the disasters of that kind of.
I would agree to this, that we have industrialized countries have much more money to fight against it or to have adaptation, yeah, so that this is not impacting so much.
I also don't think it's like going to be the main driver, because already now, and I think going forward, this will still apply. The drive for renewable energy is mostly driven by other economic reasons, not necessarily because of climate change impacts.
Because also they think that this kind of climate change is happening because natural reasons.
Yeah.
I agree the ecological factors are not the main drivers. I think the energy security is the main driver, even for Germany, the most sustainable, let's say, country. I think the two magic words are energy security. They want to be independent. This is the real main driver. Okay, you can make things look nice, global warming, CO2 emissions, but the main driver is really energy security.
Energy security, okay. This was one thesis. The answer on this one from the experts were saying very likely that this drives us. This is not the main driver, but this drives us a lot. It is a game changer that this even more and more coming ecological disasters, yeah, and even getting harder and more dangerous, even for industrialized countries, will have definitely an impact. Yeah, this was this at least 73% said certain or likely, so it is very likely that almost 3/4 said we expect that in 2040 we have the situation that everybody or most of us see this as a problem, and therefore we have to act, and that this drives us very much.
I just want to add one point. When we say ecological disaster, it doesn't mean like a hurricane or something like that.
Why?
It can include also drought and
Yeah.
drought and all this
Yeah,
stuff. Just to
Yes.
and there are many studies that says that, for example, the war in Syria is sparked by this kind of ecological disasters, because many people lost their lands which they were using for agriculture, and then they had to do something else instead. So
Exactly, and the discussion we had is, as you mentioned, do the people believe in it? That this comes from the climate change, this comes from the energy system, the current energy system, or not? And yes, they believe that in 2040 we have understood that it comes, that this is connected, that there is a link, and therefore this is also then driving us.
How to convince people that doesn't believe in scientific facts?
Sorry?
How to convince people that doesn't believe in scientific facts? We're not, I mean, they don't believe because they say that it's a natural process. And even though there are a lot of studies telling that this is because human behavior, they don't believe it. Why? Really because maybe they're oil country, then their economy depends a lot on oil, and that's bad for their economy. So facts are not helping them.
Yeah, this is the expert result. Yeah, so this is not how it will happen, or it can be, but we don't say that it's like this. Yeah, but this is just the feedback from the experts what they think in 2040. I come to another thesis, and some of you mentioned this already. Is economic profitability, investors' interests. And independence from imports will be the key considerations driving the trend to build sustainable energy supply systems. And at the same time, climate protection will no longer be the primary driver and rationale behind this development. It will only be of secondary importance.
I totally agree, even if your results show otherwise.
Yeah?
Ultimately, if you can find it profitable, but if you can demonstrate profit in saving the world rather than just doing green marketing, then so many countries' businesses are capitalists by nature, therefore they're driven by profit as much as they are by cost saving. So if you can use that as a driver along with energy security, that is perhaps more likely to
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, but maybe. The experts' answer was not so clear. They were not so clear whether this is, on the one hand, the climate protection will be secondary, and the economy is just the one. To be honest, and I was one of the persons who were interviewing it, and in my interviews it was also that a lot the economic profitability was very much a driver, but in whole the experts, they were not sure.
Who are the experts?
The experts, what I mentioned, these were worldwide experts, whether this was a professor from university or whether this were people who were working in big institutions or organizations, dealing with the energy sector currently.
Do you have a breakdown of the background of these people?
That would be interesting to see.
Yeah.
There's all companies.
Yeah.
All economists or all activists? Yeah.
Yes, everybody. So we mixed it very much. We have also here the study. Yeah, everybody can have 20 samples. Maybe it's just one.
In the end, did you make a link between the answers and the type of persons?
Yeah. What we did also at the end is that we said, okay, for example, here, in which country was which answer given? Yeah, and then also science has answered certain, and a business and associations have answered this one, and a public sector have answered this one, and civil society NGOs have answered this one. So if you read here inside, then you see also who is influencing which opinion. Yeah? I've not taken this to the, because then it goes too much into details because we have a lot of other theses. But in the brochure you will find this more detailed. This is what we have done definitely. But this is a point what you I think already mentioned. By 2040, states or countries that have strongly promoted renewable energy sources will have improved their economic position enormously and will be dominating the list of most competitive economies. What I think you mentioned it, that Germany is doing it just because of this reason. Yeah.
Yeah, independence is the main driver. Yeah. It's also creating an industry, although.
Not yeah. You say yes. Not likely.
It really depends on, it doesn't matter whether you just have energy, right? What do you do with that energy? That will make the country to become competitive or not. There could be other drivers which don't help, even though you have a better energy situation. There could be other drivers that bring you down. So it's not necessarily.
But if you don't need subsidies anymore for your energy supply, like many countries still have subsidies on fuels, on electricity prices, on.
Yeah,
so
but you are just looking at one part of the equation, and there are like labor, and there are like millions of other reasons. So yeah, in one area you are getting better, but that does not necessarily convert into a competitive position. There could be another country which does, maybe they are not as energy independent as you, but then they do well in many other parts, and they could be, at the top than your economy.
But many other parts need energy. Yeah?
Everyone.
Every part, more or less, not every part needs somehow energy. Yeah? So somehow.
But you know how to use that energy. I mean, energy is the first step if you want to be competitive. It doesn't mean that it makes you the most competitive or top of the list.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. What do you mean by competitive economies? Like prices or innovation?
Yeah.
Or
Competitive economy, so like Germany, for example, to be competitive with everything what you have, like your products. Yeah, if you your industry, you make your industry more competitive. Yeah? with low electricity prices, for example. Yeah? Even more. In Germany, we have high electricity prices, what we say, and we are still competitive. How does this work? And if we have even less electricity prices at the end of the day than others, because they still go for nuclear or other things and have higher prices, so should be somehow that there
is an assumption that with renewable energy it will be for sure lower the prices compared to fossil fuels
Yes.
without subsidies.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say more sustainability than competitive.
the experts say in 2040 it's pretty sure that countries go for it, that countries go for renewables because they see, for example, that even Germany goes even more ahead to be the competitive economy or competitive country with all the industry, and having now even then cheaper costs in production compared to others. And they say it's pretty sure that therefore countries will also run into this renewables.
I don't think so. Energy just means to an end. Look at Brazil. There's 80% renewable.
Mm-hmm.
And what does it do to the economy?
Mm-hmm.
You have energy
There are
to just
debates about the biofuels.
no, it's
Exactly.
It's hydropower. It's hydropower.
Exactly,
electricity.
but yeah,
So energy just means to an end. What do you do with that?
exactly. But if you looked into
Look at the US.
what is the country next to Brasilia, which is now at the moment or was very much exporting oil.
Venezuela.
Venezuela.
Is the situation there better or worse than in Brazil?
Okay, so then let's compare with Qatar. The situation is much better.
This is then a different region,
Yeah, but
and in
but we are
2040,
talking about one aspect.
and in
Invest in
2040,
renewable energies.
yeah,
Then it doesn't matter which region
Yeah.
you're talking about.
and therefore we say, how will it look like in 2040?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and this is what the experts think. Yeah, this is.
Maybe I'm 1% or 25%.
That's fine. And you are still an expert. I don't want to say that you're not an expert, because also this 1% or 25% were really experts. Yeah? So therefore, but this was an answer, yeah? And it's just to give you an idea how the experts think, how this situation will be in 2040, and what does it mean then also for your decision making at the end of the day, yeah? And if you go with this chart, for example, to a government which you need to advise and say, well, look, the experts think that other governments will go because of this reason for renewables, it's may a convincing argument to think more about this one than if you talk to them and say, oh, please follow the Paris Agreement, and because the global climate change is affecting us, and so on and so forth. Yeah? So I think this gives a good food for discussion, good food for talk, and also a discussion with decision makers.
This is subjective. It's not like data or like
It's not.
job creations or other statistics that you can provide. It's mainly
This is not based on
subjective.
statistics.
Yeah,
This is
subjective.
just a feeling
Yeah.
how they would predict,
Yeah.
and renewables altogether with a job creator or not. This, I mean, this is also a question. I don't know whether we have this insight, whether renewables are still then a job creator in certain countries. I think we come to this if we come to China and India. Another thesis which I find interesting is also by 2040, renewable energy sources operating in conjunction with storage units will be the generation technology with the lowest electricity production costs. So not only PV, but even PV with storage, or renewables with storage together is cheaper than any other. And high performance customer generation facilities will be sold in retail stores and can be installed in a matter of minutes.
Not minutes, but yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely right.
Yeah,
But there are sold today already.
yeah.
But not minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not minutes, but maybe in 2000.
Whatever.
yeah,
It's likely?
yeah, but minutes.
Yeah, 600 minutes.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
That's also what they think. That you buy your PV module in the next supermarket and just put it to the plug and you have electricity, or some answers. Yeah? And so this is just, will be available and will be also so cheap. Interesting was the discussion on, let me see. Interesting was a discussion on batteries or storage. Who is the technology driver? And 44% have seen the storage as the technology game changer.
What do you mean storage?
Which
Batteries
storage?
also storage.
Batteries, yeah. Batteries,
Storage can be batteries, chemical, or
thermal.
Potential.
also fuels.
flywheel.
I've not taken this into the consideration because there was a big discussion with other experts and saying, well, with this question we think that we haven't reached 2040. Because many said up to 2040 storage is not relevant anymore. Electricity will be available. Efficiency is not relevant anymore. Electricity will be available. It's just there. Whether we have a global network already, yeah, and with the 24-hour sunshine, so you can supply the whole world. This may not happen in 2040, but there will be no value anymore for electricity. Yeah? You don't sell electricity anymore. You sell the use at the end of the day, and not the electricity. The use, for example, that the electricity provider will sell you a refrigerator, and the use of the refrigerator or of the washing machine, including already the electricity. But just the electricity for the washing machine or for the refrigerator doesn't work anymore, because electricity, there's no value anymore for electricity.
Sounds very utopic.
And this,
It's not utopic.
and this by 2040, in 25 years.
It's already.
And if we have this case, then storage is irrelevant. And our partner, PwC, they were very much interested to see that the storage and the battery business will be supported by this study, because they are now advising also on this. Yeah? And we said, yeah, as a transition technology, definitely.
Is Tesla is in the report as an expert?
Hmm?
Tesla.
I think we have had, at least we asked them, but I need to check. We can check it. I'm not 100% sure, because I haven't done all the interviews. But if electricity is just available, then we need to think also about different electricity markets. I mean, you have discussed this morning, electricity markets. And this is even nowadays a different discussion, difficult discussion. But if there was no value anymore for electricity, how we get this electricity market then done?
Yeah. Like 20 years ago, I remember that I was connected to the internet after midnight because the minute was cheaper.
Yeah.
After midnight.
Yeah.
Now I have internet 24/7 here. So
Yeah.
I'm just
So we will
paying.
have free-
The first flat rate
Yeah.
business models for electricity are now upcoming in Germany.
So we're just going to
Flat
be able
rate.
to be able to use
Really?
the transmission lines.
And we are talking about 2017.
But clean energy?
Here we are talking about 2040.
Clean energy or mix?
Not utopic.
This is for them. They use many renewable energies because they are so cheap. Okay, now we need to consider that they are still supported because they get an adder from the government,
Yeah.
or not from, in Germany, not from the government, but from the electricity consumer.
Maybe you are right downstream at the consumer level, but if you talk about the generation level, then you need storage.
Yeah.
Because electricity will be there, but what is the source?
Yeah.
At the consumer level, okay, you are right.
Yeah.
But if you have an international grid which can get you solar energy from Australia now, let's say, or something like that, There is always some.
There are technical limitations for the losses.
But it's
We had even the discussion, do we need electricity lines or transition lines? Or maybe we have wireless electricity transmission.
That's possible.
This is not a thesis here, but we had the discussion.
One of the possible futures, of course.
I have a wireless charger.
Yeah, and if you think now about, let's say, big investments also, for example, in storage and in batteries, you need to consider maybe this will not happen anymore in 20 years. So if you need to calculate your investment, if you calculate for 10 years, it's fine. If you calculate it for 20 years, maybe it's already difficult. If you calculate it even longer, yeah, then you may come into a difficult situation that this may not be anymore a good business idea.
But maybe you have just to price your service differently. You don't price by kilowatt, but you price by bandwidth, like in the data center. So if as a consumer you want a certain bandwidth, you're paying for the bandwidth. It's there, as you say,
Yeah.
but then you have the initial investment.
Yeah. Yeah, but the bandwidth is just the line how big it is,
The capacity.
but not what you send through it, what you need to generate. You need to generate it still. But if it's just there, and if you have just products which make it available, then even efficiency is not anymore relevant.
But 2040 is too ambitious to do, you know. we
You're
have so
talking
many
Germany now,
countries.
and in 20 years,
This is also what we
It's gonna be 24.
This is also what we differentiate here.
Yeah.
Where do you see some of the cities? Where do you see will it happen when? For example, some say in 10 years in Germany, in 15 years in Asia, and in 20 years in Africa. Yeah? So there's also some of the theses are given here more precise. Yeah? When do we expect this? Yeah? But this is, I think, a very interesting discussion what you need to have. And the all-electricity society, yeah? The all-electricity society will have become a reality. Electricity, especially power generated from renewable sources, will also provide mobility, heating, and will have displaced petroleum and natural gas in many industrial processes. So everything is based only on electricity. Whether this is the car, and here we can discuss about e-mobility, or we can also discuss about electric, electric-based fuels. So
All countries
gas, for example, which is being produced by wind power. Yeah? But is this, everything is based, like, for example, in France now. I mean, France, they don't need to have to change a lot, their heating system. The heating system is based on electricity due to their nuclear power plants. If they change now to PV and wind, for them it's great. We have to change a lot in Germany, at least. Is it?
I think the fossil fuels will remain dominant until the end of the century. And you cannot replace, because the main hurdle is liquid fuels. Okay, by 2040 there will be a great progress, but still now the fossil fuel share from the global primary energy demand is 78%. And the other 22%, don't be happy, it's not renewables, it's biomass for 16%, which is for the less developed countries, they are using the wood. So forget about this share, 2%, 2.8% maybe nuclear, forget about it. You are left now, don't be too ambitious, and the hydropower, of course, leave it aside. You are left with maybe less than 2 or 3% renewable energy based on new technologies. So I don't think that the 2% will grow by 2040 to be dominant. Okay, I believe by the end of the century it will be dominant, but not 2040. Because you will still need the liquid fuels. This is the main.
And if you produce them out of wind power and solar power?
There are talks about the hydrogen cars.
In 25 years?
It's little, 25 years,
That's
like
a presumption
around
that
the
it will
corner.
be feasible
Yeah.
to do it and that there will be an abundance of electricity everywhere.
Yeah.
What if not?
You'll still have aeroplanes, you'll still have ships, you will still have even the transportation, also the transport pumping.
But we discussed, I think, 15 minutes ago about how fast was the development of PV from 1990 to 2015 already. And now you say within the next 25 years, which is a long time to go,
It's
you
not
don't
a long
think
time, 20 years.
25 years
Well, you
for
have to
technology
phase
development?
out- You have to phase out also the existing.
Well,
But
not only
perhaps in the
technology,
energy
but
sector, not in other sectors.
No, but like normal phones, we had everywhere landlines. Now there is no more landlines. It's finished.
Well,
Less than 25 years ago.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
to
but,
change the whole
the-
infrastructure of the
yeah,
world.
Even
if
it's finished,
if
it's gone.
you have loads of electricity tomorrow, are you
Nobody
going
builds
to
anymore.
change all the cars into electric cars?
Exactly.
What do you do with the existing cars?
Airplanes.
Where is the investment for the new cars? And we are talking about countries taking back their investment, or they're scrapping their investment and then putting new money to buy new things.
Airplane
It is
development.
too ambitious for 25 years.
But if you're petroleum-based or petroleum-fired car
Yeah,
costs you double the price of an electric car,
yeah.
then you made
won't buy a
then
new
you
car.
then you,
You won't buy a new car. Your new car will be electric. What about your old car? You are not going to throw it away.
if this runs me into the ruin that I don't have money anymore because it's so much so expensive in operation, then I use them maybe only on Sunday afternoon.
In 25 years, no, it won't.
No, but maybe there will be a business model to refurbish cars.
In 2040.
But the whole world, who has a car?
Well, what about
But cars,
Who has access to energy? I mean, all the people who have no access to energy, who have no mobility at the moment, there we start even from zero already now, and they don't need to replace something.
But in the energy sector, it's happening really fast because it's attractive.
Yeah.
And the technology cycle replacement has really shortened, same as in telecommunications. But for instance, what with airplane industry, it takes 20 years
yeah?
to develop a new device, whatever you call it.
We don't need to develop a new airplane. Maybe we just develop a new engine. Eh?
How long will that
Yeah.
take?
Yes, this is at least.
20 years that means
you are
that they
saying
have to have
all.
a
You are
solution
saying
now.
all.
Well, I say
When you say all, it's
ambitious.
yeah, it's very ambitious, too ambitious. If you say 20%, I would say I agree,
Yeah.
but not all.
for Africa it's easy because they have to go for
That way.
energy and access to energy, and for them, it's a very easy way to go. In Europe, we need to just to replace, or Australia or US, we just need to replace. And there, where's demand? If you look into China, we come to this in a few seconds. Yeah, I mean, China is already going a lot. I mean, they are at the moment the driver for renewables. Yeah. At the end, the experts say, well, they think it's very likely that most of the processes are electricity based.
I'm the 2%.
You go into details, then also one or who of your colleagues comes from where to have
What
this
about heavy industries?
heavy
The
industry.
all electric?
Yeah.
Okay. 20 years.
It's what experts think
I don't think
may
that
happen.
Electricity
Yeah.
part from the total growth from 15% to 100%. Impossible.
One or two more things of the thesis, and then I think we are already late, but I have still some other points to tell. I don't know how long can we exceed. How long can we exceed my 15 minutes? Oh, then I need to run. So, thesis 11, for example, by 2040, a global climate regime with binding and ambitious targets for the reduction of carbon emissions will be in place. Do you think that will be happen? binding, and a global one?
No. We're not able to force peace in the world.
I mean, this was done before Paris Agreement. Paris Agreement was already after we had published the study. Well, it's interesting because it's half-half. They say, well, we are not so sure. Some say, yeah, it is, and it needs to come because then what we had before, the ecological disasters and so on and so forth, some said no. There will be not a global one, but many think that they have a regional one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is much more likely, yeah? That a regional emission trading system or carbon tax, yeah, in one country, for example, will happen.
It will be used as an excuse to interfere with other countries, let's say. It will be the same what they talk now.
Yeah.
So the two are not necessarily linked to each other. You can have binding targets, and then like implementation about a tax or trading scheme is a bit of a different.
Yeah, but if you want to be the most competitive economy, and you want to push it, then you implement it with a carbon tax, because you say, okay, if even my industry doesn't understand the competitive advantage to go for it, then you need to push it from the policy-wise. Yeah?
I was just saying, like, to have a global agreement of binding targets, you don't not necessarily need a globally linked pricing system.
Yeah.
You can have like binding targets all over the world.
Yeah.
Global system.
That's true.
Everybody introduces their own
Yeah.
tax. Or
Yeah, but with a binding system, you have already more pressure in the system, and therefore you get even a better idea of a price. Yeah. So you see that this, what we talked about the drivers, yeah, that this one have been considered as the main drivers, how the energy system will develop, that this influences the energy transition. This is one what we also had here, customer behavior. Consumer will expect businesses and products and services to be sustainable, yeah, on a comprehensive scale. Non-sustainable forms of production will be considered unethical. It's likely?
Yes.
I think one or two, 3 persons mentioned this. Is it?
In some places, no.
Is it?
This is true today.
In
It's not saying
in America?
It's not saying that I'm not going to buy the cheapest one.
Exactly.
Not, no,
It's
no, no,
not
no,
saying that.
no, no.
I may think producing
But the way, but the way.
is unethical, but I buy it because I don't have another alternative.
But we're talking about sustainable, yeah? And
Economic driver.
so in the US, I would say, well, currently it's a bit different way, but they think they talk about sustainable is only if we keep on having the same jobs, yeah, in the coal business or in the oil business, yeah. So we talk about a different sustainability in this case here. Yeah? They say very likely that consumer behavior will be in this position. Yeah? So decentralization is possible futures now. Possible future. How do it look like if we have this thesis and the answers? How futures could look like? How would they be possible? And decentrality is a key. Is what the experts found out as a key. Influenced definitely by the renewable energies and even the cheap renewable energies, or also this renewable and storage system, the microfinance, self-governance, leapfrogging and high resilience. Possible interpretation, change of many developing countries to build a secure energy supply. Yeah? Decentralization to make especially African or developing countries having access to energy, because before it was difficult to have these transition lines with big power plants, etc., etc. Now with decentralized systems, very positive, many can have much faster access to energy. Yeah, this is a good interpretation. Productive use of energy is then possible. Higher independence from fossil fuel, or higher independence from imports, generally, which are always costly for the economy. And large-scale projects, for example, like nuclear, are abundant. We're not talking about large-scale, for example, PV plants. This is also still a different scale. This is not considered as large. But what I find interesting is here, the impacts of decentrality. We have a lot of projects, as GIZ, in countries where we have a central government. Now, you go to this country, and the up country there is almost no power, there is no electricity, and now you empower them. Now you give them power, not only electricity, but you give them power, because if you give them energy, yeah, and if you become also an energy distributor, you become powerful, even on a political side, even on a governmental side. So if you empower rural areas in a central government, this may even lead to worse situations, difficult situations. Yeah? So that central governments, I mean, we are standing for democracy, and we are standing also for decentralized systems also in the government. But if this goes very fast, it may result in even more difficult fights, internal fights, and within countries, which needs to be considered. Usually we say renewables are good for peace, yeah, because everybody can participate. Yeah? In many countries it's not wished. Yeah? And if you force this now, and if you start with revolutions, if you have even now boundaries which are not interesting anymore, because yeah, you have the energy exchange with your neighbor village, yeah, on the other side of the boundary. So even then country boundaries are getting obsolete, or they become of minor relevance. Yeah? And power utilities who have usually then, who are also public power utilities, who are then now not competitive anymore and have no power anymore. So what they do against this, in Germany they were quite calm, yeah, but in other countries, I mean, they are connected to the government. So this can cause a lot of trouble in many countries. Maybe in the long run it goes then to the right direction for democracy, but we need to consider that this may cause internal revolution. And if we think about the fossil fuel exporters, yeah, if Qatar, if Saudi Arabia, if they don't change their business system, Algeria, yeah, if they don't change their system, I mean, this is the great grasp for fire. I mean, how shall Saudi Arabia finance their people, their society, their people, if not by selling fossil fuels anymore, if there's no price anymore for the fossil fuel, because nobody is asking anymore for it? How shall they survive? If everything is now, for example, electricity based, yeah, and if they can't even compete with their oil to the renewable energy, and this is what we said before, the competitiveness of the economy, and very important topic. And we have a lot of countries which still just survive due to the oil, but this will be then the next war in these countries.
Don't buy shares in Aramco.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah. If we talk about the shrinking markets for them, the shrinking markets, I think this is interesting. Yeah? We are talking about, because we are talking out of the perspective of renewables. Yeah? We are talking about growing markets. And they need to talk about shrinking markets, because the demand for fossils will reduce and reduce and reduce. So they have the product available, but there's no market anymore. Yeah? And therefore then the divestments. Yeah? And last slide, or second last slide, is also the role of China and India. We were asking them, yeah? And one of the possible futures was, and what we said is, China and India take over the game. Yeah? Due to the fact they need to do something due to air pollution. Yeah? They are very large markets, and if you see, I mean, how China develops their renewable energy market, and they were also part of running costs down for renewables, yeah, and they are now in a position of innovation. And with this great size of country and people, they will dominate in future the business. Yeah, was one of the possible futures, and saying, well, how can we survive if these countries will then dominate everything? Yeah? It will then, in these countries, positively, that's for sure, rising middle classes and pollution, push clean technology, yeah? The commitment under the climate regime becomes driver 2 in these countries. You see at the moment, Trump goes out. China and India, they were here and discussed with our chancellor, and they said, no, we'll go for it. Because we have understood that this is not a matter of we need the US, we go for it even without them. Because we have seen this is important, yeah? For us, and it gives also us opportunities, a lot of opportunities. And then they will become a strategic industrial, they will get strategic industrial pillars in their countries. And this is, I think, what they want. Anyway, and if they can do it with the energy sector, perfect. So you see, these were only few theses out of the Delphi Energy Future 2040 method, which gives always food for thinking and food for discussion. And what we also would like to do is to go with this, see this 2 countries and discuss it with them. What do you think? And make, do you feel inspired, or do you feel realistic, or do you think you need to think about it? Yeah? Because there are some results which are not so much, or wouldn't be expected. Some are clear, yeah? But to have this in mind, that in 25 years, which is for power plants, as we learned before, not a long period, for coal-fired power plant, too short, but still for technology development, for example, a very long period to come to a totally different picture. And therefore, I can recommend you take one of the samples here, go into details, and if you want to discuss this with us or even with others, you are highly welcome to do this, because this is publicly available, as all of our products are publicly available. And I hope that this has not made you more confused about your future business, but it has enriched you to think about it. And with this, I would like to close. Thank you.
Will we receive the presentation?
Yes, I think all the presentations will be sent to you. Yeah. So, are there questions?
What about the track record of the method, regardless of the replies that were given here?
Mm.
Was this method used 25 years ago, and how did the prediction work out?
This method has been developed, I think, by Japanese already, this Delphi method itself. It has not been done for Energy Future 2040, but for other topics. And I'm not sure if they have analyzed one of the first applications, or that they applied it, whether they have analyzed it 20 years or 30 years later on.
That would be interesting, because what I was thinking the whole time is, how biased is that? Because there are people there giving opinions, and their opinions are, of course, based on their expertise in the area, but also on their mindset and how they think about the world. So it would be interesting to see how reliable the method is.
Have you seen other studies who have been analyzed, like from, I don't know, International Energy Agency, or from BP or from Bloomberg, who have been analyzed 20 years later on, who were more based on scientific facts. Who? No. Yeah.
I was just thinking the whole time.
I mean, you're young. You can still do it in 2040 to see.
Yeah, they studied maybe 2020, maybe 2030, but it's unlikely that they have this long-term vision because they don't have like enough data or they don't know all the variables. So I guess that these kind of studies, yes, rely on the experience of the people because even if you have data, it's not enough to have this kind of forecast or have something for sure.
Yeah. And if you, for example, consider one example is still e-mobility in Germany. I mean, the Chancellor was calling for 1 million e-mobility cars on German streets in 2020. And we, by far, don't reach this. And she's very much relaxed on this. How come? Although we want to be the technology driver for everything in Germany. Well, if you consider the car mobility or the car industry in Germany, if we build electricity cars or e-cars, you need 1/7, 1 of 7 jobs to build an e-car. The rest is gone because most of the jobs are with engines and with gears and whatsoever. So there are other facts who cannot be really measured or cannot come into a scientific analysis so much. And therefore, this expert opinions, feelings, this is more than also a feeling, may give a different view on this. And therefore, this method, I think, is an interesting one as an add-on to the scientific.
But it would be interesting to know why they're thinking on that kind of answers
Because I think, because they think they look at more facts than just the scientific facts. Yeah.
Maybe I have a question in the same direction, but not really about the results or the method, but about developing of the questions. Because I mean, like, it's 25 years, but 25 years ago, if you look at like how we use the internet and how the internet has an impact on our lives today, I mean, it's even difficult to kind of like.
25 years, I was still at school. I think I didn't have even email at that time,
exactly.
so I couldn't ask even for internet.
Questions about what will be in 25 years from now.
Yeah, I couldn't
it's
even.
already very hard, right?
That's exactly what it's meant to be, a provocation to start discussion.
Yeah, exactly. And therefore we had I think 6 topics in mind. This was on the one hand technology, on the other hand policy, on the third was society, and then there was geopolitics and I think another one. Just from this perspective to look at energy as we don't know how it is, but so from different angles, a spot on it, and not knowing what we are talking about. But so we didn't ask really questions. This was more an open. Come, you tell me, what's your feeling? And we didn't had precise. We didn't want to push them in a direction.
To keep an open mind.
I think they are
This was very important.
Yeah.
One thing is that it's
More,
not,
too
since
much.
it's curated of various experts and thoughts and thinkers has been put this into the place. So my doubt is not on the method itself, but just to have a pattern thinking in the past where this method has been used and within a short period, probably not 25 years, 5 years or 10 years, how the results were measured and compared. It could be any industry, maybe a consumer, or it could be an aerospace industry or healthcare. Do we have any facts on that? How this method was tested and what was being achieved? So that could give a convincing perception when we leave out the table what would be happening in 2048, to summarize.
Yeah, I mean this was the business idea of PwC. I mean we all paid for the study from our pocket money, yeah, from the company's money. Yeah? There was no contract for anybody. We just did it out of our budget. And PwC was definitely interested to have, let's say, somehow see a trend which I can give to my private clients, go into research, for example, into this direction, because we have the expert opinions here. Maybe you should look into it, yeah, and give them an advice. Yeah? This was definitely their personal interest, their company interest, to go for such a study. Yeah?
Can you send a copy to Trump?
We can send a copy to Trump, yes. Not yet. I think we will then ask Arnold Schwarzenegger to hand over with a big handshake.
As Mr. Trump would say, sounds good, doesn't work.
Yeah, and then we say, then we can ask, is it energy first? I mean, I like this movie, so it's America first, but and then the other country second.
Never second.
Okay, I think you are tired. It's Thursday. I hope you will enjoy the rest of your stay. How long will you stay still? Sunday. Okay. You have your yesterday recognized the Fête de la Musique. Everywhere there was music in the streets, no? I couldn't sleep, at least at my flat.
Why is that?
This was in the whole city, everywhere. It was quite loud no? Oh, okay. Enjoy Berlin, enjoy our capital, enjoy the better becoming weather now. And I hope we will see us again in an all-electric society. Thank you very much.